Disclaimer, the comments made in this video are intended for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to offend anyone. Welcome back, folks. Today we are stepping into another viral circus. Stay tuned, because this one goes from moral posturing to instant regret faster than a Twitter apology. Let's start with a woke professor trying the usual routine of dodge, deflect, and sprinkle in fake moral outrage.
This is the perfect example of the insane madness of the left.
Do you believe that race should be considered in employer hiring practices?
I do not believe that white people are the only qualified people for jobs.
I didn't say that. Nobody said that. I asked you if race should be considered in employer hiring practices. And you're not going to intimidate me by slandering me as a racist.
I did not call you a racist.
No,
you're not going to intimidate me by insisting that I called you a racist.
Straightforward question. It's a yes or no question. Should race be considered in employer hiring practices? Yes or no?
I believe that diversity ought to be considered as companies and other organizations attempt to reflect their customers, our country.
I'll take that as a yes. Which race do you think should be preferred?
I do not think that a single race should be preferred.
You just said that you believe that race should be considered in employer hiring practices.
I don't know. There's going to be a transcript of this hearing. I didn't say that in that way.
Okay, why don't you explain what you believe?
A simple question turns into word salad, accusation bait, and panic once the follow-up lands. No yelling, no insults, just calm pressure. Woke logic hates clarity, and the moment it faces a yes or no, it collapses on itself fast. Next up is a woke panel that tries to run the usual guilt script, expecting agreement and silence.
Holy. He said what?
When we came over here in slave ships, was that racism?
No.
That wasn't racism?
Why do you say that was racism?
To take capture and force people to go somewhere that they don't want to go.
And who were the racists promoting that, doing that?
So-called white men.
No, that's not true.
It's not true.
Black people were sold into slavery by blacks. It was the Arabs who sold the blacks across the world. It wasn't white people who just tiptoed over to Africa and just took white folks. They've been sold by other black people. And they're still doing that today in parts of Africa where blacks are enslaved by other blacks and Arabs.
Instead, they get a calm answer that shatters the approved story instantly. No anger, no theatrics, just facts that leave the room stunned. The moment reality shows up, the outrage disappears, and the talking points collapse right on cue. Now here's a smug moderator trying the polite shutdown while the woke script starts wobbling.
Vance fires back at this smug moderator.
Just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you,
Margaret. The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing. Have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris...
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Rules suddenly change, mics start getting threatened, and interruptions fly fast. Calm facts were never part of the plan. When clarity shows up, the moderators panic, rush the clock, and hope viewers forget what was just said. Spoiler alert, they did not. Here's a good one. A woke college argument sounds confident until it meets basic logic in real time.
Rob Schneider continues to educate woke college students with facts.
I'd also want to bring up the issue with trans in schools. I do think children should be allowed to have that knowledge on if they want to transition on what they want to do.
If I have a boy and he thinks he's a pirate, do I have the right to cut off his knee and take an eye out and give him an eye patch?
I think once he gets to that certain point.
What's the point where I can cut off my son's knee because he thinks he's a pirate?
That's purely between a parent and a child.
Okay, not at 14. If you are under 25 years old, they don't even let you rent a car in this state. What does Avis, Enterprise, and Hertz know that the medical establishment seems so blissfully ignorant about?
Rob stays calm while the talking points fall apart fast. Suddenly nobody can explain where the line is, who decides it, or why common rules vanish. When simple comparisons expose the holes, the woke crowd goes quiet and pretends the question was unfair. Coming up, we've got the press doing what it does best, fishing for outrage while missing the point completely.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
Acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission. The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. Very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. And we don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games.
A harmless phrase turns into a full-blown gender crisis in seconds. Calm facts shut it down fast, and suddenly the narrative has nowhere to run. When competence matters more than labels, the woke word police lose their script and the room. Up next is a media meltdown disguised as a serious interview.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
You had one of the greatest scandals of all time. The coverage of the Biden administration, Joe Biden's diminished capacity, and the cover-up.
And that's why it's probably fair to raise these questions.
Where was it? We just had a 3-hour cabinet meeting yesterday, Andrew. For 10 months, the Biden administration did not have a cabinet meeting. How are you going to invoke the 25th Amendment if the cabinet secretaries never see the president, which they did? I hear from people in the Treasury building that I see President Trump more in a day than my predecessor saw Joe Biden in half a year.
Polished host tries to steer the story, but facts crash the party hard. Suddenly, the cover stories sound shaky, the timelines fall apart, and the usual media confidence disappears. When calm truth hits the table, the woke press has no choice but to squirm and pivot fast. Take a look at this one. A woke commentator loses composure the moment merit gets mentioned out loud.
This woke lady loses her mind when this base gentleman dismantles the woke ideology and tells the panel how they have made us obsessed with race and gender.
Woke movement did destabilize this notion of truth and fiction. It made us obsessed with the idea of race, gender, sexual orientation. It divided us more than ever before. And the key thing about woke, I think, which is often forgotten, I know Yasmin has written about the political correctness era, which was a kind of messy negotiation towards a revision of a social contract. The woke era added authoritarianism. It said, we're going to bully you. It said,
rubbish.
Well, there's a thing called cancel culture.
This is rubbish.
There's a thing called
white
cancel
men.
Culture, Yasmin.
It's very interesting. This week, a lot of white men complained. Did you read this in the newspapers? We're not getting the jobs. We're being excluded from shortlists.
No, but
it's happening.
True.
It's happening to us. And women, quite rightly, wrote columns saying, "Join the club."
But don't you think a meritocracy is a better system
The
than
meritocracy,
judging people on the basis of their skin
It
colour?
has never happened. I have been a journalist for 37 years, right?
Well, wouldn't that be the
No,
aspiration?
hang on. I've been a journalist for 37 years. I've won every award going, and I have been paid less than my white male colleagues all those years.
Well, that's something that you could resolve with a meritocratic system.
Calm logic lands, and suddenly it's clapping, shouting, and personal grievances instead of answers. When identity politics runs out of arguments, it defaults to volume. Funny how merit is called fake right up until it exposes the flaw in the rant. Now, a woke activist tries flexing family credentials like it's a legal cheat code.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
Representative Leach, are you aware that my grandfather was an assistant attorney general for the state of Texas?
No. Congratulations.
Are you aware that he represented Texas in front of the United States Supreme Court 9 times?
No. Are you aware that my dad worked for Oscar Mayer for 25 years and drove the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile?
Turns out name-dropping ancestors does not win arguments. One calm, sarcastic reply wipes the smugness clean off the room. When ego meets humor and common sense, the whole activist act freezes instantly. Suddenly status means nothing, and logic steals the spotlight. Here we have a woke activist confidently rewriting recent history in real time.
Whenever the woke left managed to come back to their senses, they seemed to forget the deranged things they did in the past.
When the scientific advice changes so rapidly, the state had a mindset of you will conform or we will punish you. And it turned out they were making
That's
people...
simply
they
not
were making,
true.
It is true.
You may have felt uncomfortable being unmasked in public because people would say, hey, be courteous of other people.
I didn't.
Nobody got fired.
I didn't.
Nobody lost their job. Nobody
Actually,
got
people did get fired and did lose their jobs.
No, all that stuff got overturned.
No,
because we are a nation of laws.
People did get fired. They all lost their jobs for not wearing a mask. They were told they couldn't come to work.
Who?
Lost thousands of people.
Okay, so these nebulous people lost their jobs.
Nick, to be clear, you don't think anybody lost their job in the pandemic for refusing to wear a mask or refusing to be vaccinated?
I think that people who were in public-facing situations where they could have easily taken a scientifically proven preemptive measure.
It wasn't proven.
Yes, it was.
No, it turned out not to be proven. That's my point.
The script says nobody was punished, nobody lost work, and nothing bad happened. Calm pushback shatters that fantasy fast. Once facts show up, the certainty fades. The tone gets smug, and denial becomes the final defense. Reality is not very friendly to talking points. Next up is a woke argument that tries hiding behind "it's complicated" until a simple moral question wrecks the whole act.
He completely dismantles his woke argument with a simple moral fact.
Do you have a single argument for
Yes,
why
I-
the unborn before a heartbeat is not a human being and we can kill it?
Yeah, no, my argument is basically that it's a tough judgment call, and I think that if you're making laws in a country that is not a Christian country...
How is it a tough judgment call?
I just think that early on in a pregnancy, like, you have to make laws that are going to be
like the equivalent
acceptable
of going back to like when slavery was around and saying, oh well, slavery is a very complicated issue. You know, these plantations are hiring people, right? And so exactly, that's what you're saying, and I'm saying it's actually really not that complicated of an issue.
Yeah.
It is a human life worth protecting.
I just wish there was that passion for life from the life of the 1-week-old zygote. I wish we had that passion for the 2-year-olds that are dying.
A third of my generation is gone. They are gone because of abortion, Tim.
The confidence fades, the words stumble, and suddenly history comparisons hit too close to home. When moral clarity shows up, the talking points collapse fast, and the room knows exactly who won. This time, the woke script completely runs out of answers.
What do you mean? What does that even mean? Okay, I'm gonna educate you. If you were biologically born with women parts, you're a woman. You don't. So gender identity is a lie. It's fake. There's only 2 genders: a man and a woman. And you know. Let me ask you a question. How many gender identities are there in nature? How many genders are in a lion? No, because look, if it's natural, it should be in nature. So let me ask you a question. How many genders do a lion have? How many genders do a monkey have? How many genders do a zebra have? How come human beings, if this was true and it's natural, how come human beings are the only one with gender fluidity? Because it's not true. Do horses have multiple genders? No.
It starts with attitude and buzzwords, then reality shows up asking basic questions. Nature does not play along, logic keeps stacking up, and frustration replaces confidence fast. When simple questions get no answers, the shouting starts. That is usually how you know the argument is finished. Here's a good one. A woke parody shows what happens when buzzwords collide with basic questions.
Male or female?
Neither. They, them.
What?
That's their pronoun.
Okay, so how many were there?
Oh my god, one, you idiot. They're non-binary.
So does non-binary have a hole or a pole? We just need to clarify.
They who? Who them? Where what? Who's who? Who's who? They, them, or who?
We're having pronoun trouble again.
I was just violently attacked.
By who?
By her. We were just arguing. She used offensive and violent language that violated my rights as an individual.
You all right, love? Keep going. Go. We've zapped 3 of them this morning. They're everywhere today. Were they white?
No.
Were they black?
No, colour doesn't matter, you bigot.
Were they fat?
That's body shaming, sorry.
What do they look like?
A human. That's who you're getting from me, you pig.
Okay, witness says we're looking for an angry, BO-smelling, pink-haired dog with a nose ring over.
Every answer creates 3 more problems. Logic taps out, and the rulebook eats itself. When labels replace clarity, even simple reports become impossible. The satire lands hard because it exposes how fast the whole routine falls apart under pressure. Next up, we've got a brand learning the hard way that woke marketing is bad for business.
I'm not going to bother with this product anymore. I think that Costa Coffee is an absolute waste of time. What? I think that they have absolutely disgraced this country, and I think that they should absolutely get out of it. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to show you this piece of the Costa Coffee cup, because I am damn sick of the way that decent, hard-working mums in this country are humiliated and damaged by people who arrive wearing sports bras when they don't need them, when they've got their Doc Martens with all sorts of trans adverts all over them, and most of all, when they make the double mastectomy, one of the most horrendously embarrassing, hurtful, painful, and sickening things that can happen to a woman. When they make it a sign of masculinity, they can bog off, as far as I'm concerned.
They can bog off, exactly. There is coffee now all over the front of the tent now.
So obviously, first of all, I want to apologise to the News UK cleaners, because unfortunately there is coffee. They can have that as well, I don't care.
Coffee cup turns into a protest, and suddenly corporate virtue signaling looks ridiculous under bright studio lights. When normal people see shock tactics instead of values, the outrage is not confusion, it is backlash. Turns out slogans do not sell lattes. Up next is a case where common sense somehow became a punishable offense.
You complained about a man in the women's locker room and you were punished?
Correct. I was punished because I misgendered him.
You lost your job, or you're suspended without pay from your job?
Correct, as the soccer coach.
So you were the creep in this. I have to ask, did other employees at the school take you aside and say we're on your side? Did anyone protest your suspension?
None of the other employees did. Other community members have supported me, though, privately.
Thank you for complaining, by the way. Blake Allen, what did you do wrong in the eyes of the school, and how were you punished?
I was in the locker room, and the trans student walked in, and there was the rest of the team was in there, and I was really uncomfortable, and I left, and I told the school, and they just shut me down and said there's nothing they could do, and I was later suspended because I voiced my opinion that a male shouldn't be in the women's locker room, and then when we filed a lawsuit, they dropped the suspension.
How old are you? How old were you when this happened?
I'm 14. I'm a freshman.
You're 14 years old. And when you complained about a dude in the girls' locker room, you got suspended.
Yes.
Coach and a teenage girl speak up about discomfort, and the system treats them like villains. Jobs lost, suspensions handed out, all for stating the obvious. When feelings outrank reality, truth becomes misconduct. This time, it's a woke double standard getting exposed in real time.
I mean, just my reaction really quick is just like, look, you're free to do porn, but I think you got to understand that my personal view is I don't think it's impossible for a girl who's been involved in that kind of industry to get a guy to get married. It's clear. It's not about change. It's just like, that's your history.
You don't think well, I think a woman can become a better version of herself even if they went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What about women who've been like trafficked and stuff? They can be
Whoa, you can't compare that at all. No, actually, that is completely insane. You can't even bring that up.
We're not
okay, but it's just like, don't judge people who've had a lot of, some people, like, I didn't even know what I was going into.
Of course, well, actually, no, I will judge people who have had a lot of sex. In the same way that women judge men for a vast list of criteria when it comes to selecting them to potentially be a romantic partner, men are also allowed to have preferences, standards, and boundaries.
But I'm not saying men versus women. Well, I wouldn't judge.
No, it's always this thing with like, well, why are men so judgmental about body count, or women who do this or who do that? Y'all are super fucking judgmental about a myriad of things that matter to you, like a guy's height, a guy's success. There's a guy's penis size. There's a million fucking things that y'all care about.
I guess it's valid.
And that's, for you, that's preferences. But if a man has a preference, that's discrimination. That's judgment. That's somehow wrong.
Suddenly preferences are fine when women have them, but offensive when men do. Logic stays calm while outrage ramps up. Once boundaries get labeled as discrimination, the argument falls apart fast. Turns out equality sounds great until standards apply both ways. Here's what happens when woke logic collides with basic fairness and instantly starts tripping over itself.
I find it unbelievably ironic that the same people that celebrate Leah Thomas, a biological male competing against females, are the same people that you see on commercials trying to get women's sports popular and talk about how great women's sports is. It almost makes me think they realize that they can't make the WNBA popular, so let's just put NBA players.
The NCAA, I wore this shirt today actually, if the people can't read it. It says 50 years of Title IX creating opportunities. They handed out this shirt at our NCAA championships where we had a man win a national title. They love using the term equity. And it's like, do you know what equity means?
Yeah, they don't.
No.
Do you know? I want to like throw a dictionary at you. Like,
it's crazy to have this whole situation. Only people who are being silenced and not being heard as women.
Yeah.
After that women's rights, I guess, don't matter.
So what are the next steps for you personally, but also for this movement? Do you think the tide will turn at any point here?
you know, actually that's a pretty good analogy you use. The tide, because Bethany Hamilton, who is of course the surfer who lost her arm in a shark attack, but she said that she's will not be participating in any sort of World Surf League competitions if men can compete.
They call it equity, then silence the actual women who trained for years. Titles vanish, records disappear, and the gaslighting ramps up. Funny how empowering women somehow ends with women told to sit down and clap anyway. And finally, here's someone who tries gaming the system and calls it self-care.
I just found out my wife just left her corporate job for a cashier job. She's like, she wants to get out of the payments of what she's doing.
Payments of what?
Child support, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a reason why you're not paying to support this child?
I left my job. The reason why I left it, and I did do it intentionally.
Wait a minute. You intentionally left your job?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I had enough money in savings to still provide for my child and still provide medical insurance. So I felt that, you know, the stress of my divorce wasn't inhibiting me from performing my job.
Okay. First of all, how much did you make at your last job?
I annually $70,000.
$70,000, okay. And that's your only job?
It was my only job. Now I work at a convenience store.
Doing what?
Head clerk.
Okay, how much are you making now?
About $30,000 a year.
$30,000. And what type of education do you have?
I have my master's.
You have a master's degree and you're a head clerk. What's the qualification to work at that job?
You just need a high school diploma.
High school diploma. And you have a master's degree. I'm not about to play with you. $70,000 a year. You said you covered a child on health insurance. How much is that?
$300 a month.
Ma'am, I'm going to make you pay child support. You came obviously in this courtroom to waste my time.
A master's degree suddenly turns into a cashier badge, all to dodge responsibility. The judge is not buying the performance. When woke excuses meet basic math and accountability, the act falls apart fast. Turns out quitting your job does not quit your obligation. And there you have it. When performative rage meets the real world, the results are rarely flattering. Shouting slogans and throwing accusations might earn likes online, but consequences do not care about your hashtags. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy watching reality interrupt the outrage economy. We will see you next time.